Now that we've learned a little bit about hooks and the structure of an introduction, we're going to take a moment to start looking at how we go about crafting these things. Because the big question you might be asking yourself now is, okay, Ms. Krosky taught me about the anatomy of a hook or the introduction and what a hook is and like how to create something engaging. And now she expects me to do it on my own and she must be crazy. But the reality is that there are a lot of strategies that you can use that will really help. So let's break this down again. If our sample introduction is this, by June 2017, smartphone users had access to an astounding 2,666 emojis. These tiny images reveal big emotions, and they're starting to change how people think about self expression. With the rise of emojis, formal language is no longer essential to communication. All right, again, so we use a hook. We start with an interesting fact, right? Then we have our bridge where it connects the hook to the claim or the purpose using something that is thematically related or helps connect the two ideas. So that's where the emphasis on the way that the emojis have created change comes into play. And then we have the actual individual claim or purpose statement. So the important question that you may be asking yourself is, where did the creator come up with this information? How did they take these things that they'd researched that were other people's ideas and put things into their own words, and how you can do that too? And it's very important to understand that the information that goes into the introduction comes from a combination of places. It comes from the interesting ideas that you learned during your research. And it also comes from your own argument or purpose or your thoughts about the main topic. So you're taking the ideas that you read from others and you're sort of synthesizing them or mixing them up with your own to help your audience understand the main point that you were trying to communicate. So let's look at the topic that we've been discussing kind of throughout this process, our topic about homework. Remember, here's our purpose statement. Kids in grades K through 8 need more recess time built into their day because it helps them perform better academically and improves their behavior. All right. So if we look at this as our purpose statement or our claim, a reasonable theme or central idea to help kind of unify that introduction is the idea or theme that kids need more recess. So this is going to become the theme that I want to use in my introduction, and that's going to help me structure things. The question now to think about is, what type of a hook can I add to engage my audience and convince them to listen to what I have to say? Remember, hooks can take on many forms. An interesting fact or detail, a provocative claim or question that challenges the audience, a relevant statistic or piece of data about your topic, or a rich evocative description. This is going to depend a little bit on how exactly you want to grab a hold of your audience. Are you trying to get them to understand how kids are negatively impacted by recess and you really want them to feel the emotion of that? Are you trying to get them to understand something new, and so you're changing their ideas or you're challenging an idea that they've already had or maybe they've considered for a long time? So the hook should be kind of most appropriate to what purpose you are hoping to accomplish. The ideas and information to help you create a hook come from a combination of your own knowledge on the topic and the research that you've done. And you take those all together and you think about how you want to kind of bring your audience into this conversation. So here are a few things I've learned about recess during my research. And this is where I've just kind of summed up a few ideas I've gathered. Kids fidget more when they don't get breaks, which can lead to discipline problems. The increase in standardized testing is one of the biggest reasons that kids have lost recess. Research shows that kids who have more access to recess have better ratings of classroom behavior. Students today have less free play or unstructured time now than they did in the 1960s or 1970s. And the big decrease in recess started the same year as the No Child Left Behind Act. So these are all different pieces of information that I've gathered along the way, and they're going to inform that theme I have of kids needing more recess. So when you're creating a hook, again, you're using what you've learned to help you think about what will have the most impact on your audience, what will most impact them in terms of the purpose or the goal that you have for your piece that you're creating. So, if our theme is kids need more recess, here are some appropriate ideas for hooks. If I'm starting with an interesting fact or detail, I might say something like this. In the last decade, schools have seen a sharp increase in discipline and behavior issues, while they have decreased the amount of time kids have for recess or unstructured play. That's one way to go about it. Interesting fact or detail. A provocative claim or question that challenges the audience. Are we failing our children? When more time in kindergarten is spent on academics and testing than on playing and growing, what will happen to our kids? A relevant statistic or data about your topic. In 2013, the newspaper USA Today reported that up to 40% of schools nationwide had reduced or eliminated recess altogether. Or even a rich and evocative description. Head down, feet swinging above the floor, Henry sits outside the principal's office, awaiting his punishment. The crime? After 45 minutes of a lesson, he just couldn't sit still anymore. So when you look at these different hooks and how they're structured, they each connect to the strategies that we've discussed, but they have different impacts. Let's say we go back here. Are we failing our children? That's really going to affect people who are parents, educators, people who work with children and really care. The idea of are we failing our children will kind of create a sense of fear that might encourage people to continue reading. If we look at something like this piece of data or the statistic, 40% of schools across America, so that means almost half of the schools in our country have less recess or no recess at all. That's an astronomical figure. That's huge. So, again, you want to really think about the hook and how it can work to help connect your audience to the ultimate process that you are hoping that they'll engage with and what you want them to do with the main information. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move into an example of how to move from that hook into the rest of the introduction. That'll be in the next video. So this wraps up kind of an introduction to how to create the hook, and we'll move into the craft of the whole introduction in just a minute.